All right, everybody, back. Another episode of Inside Hilltoppers Sports Zoomcast. Back with everybody again. We're back for the second week in a row. Oh, next week we call it a winning streak. Casey Warner is here. Noah McGhee is here. Tyler Mansfield is here as well. I am Sean Williams, the pseudo host of the show. Of course, we're going to make it more basketball centric in this one, but we got to talk a little football at the top. We talked a lot about Charlotte, the game with Charlotte last week, supposed to be played tomorrow morning. It has been canceled right before we get on there here. Western, man, they almost put it off, but unfortunately, Charlotte had other plans. Got 10 games in, was almost going to get that 11th game and finish out the regular season. But Charlotte has not played since what? Halloween. So,
Halloween.
yeah, they haven't played in quite a while. They've had some COVID issues. Now, could they have played? Maybe, but they decided not to. So 4-6. I'm kind of curious, just kind of what your thoughts are, and I'll kind of go around the horn here. Do you think Western Kentucky season is actually finished, or do you think they can find another team they can play before the bowl games start and everything like that? That could be a possibility. They have a little bit of wiggle room there to maybe set something like that up. And or B, do you think they finish at 4-6? Do you think they get in the bowl game with that record? Tyler, I will start with you.
I could definitely see Todd Stewart being the guy to go find a game real quick. I know there's teams that have games open, of course, a couple weeks from now. I know bowl games don't start for a couple more weeks, so maybe get another game in there somewhere. Maybe be another Conference USA school. It might be another just a out of conference team, but trying to find something to get that fifth, that hopefully that fifth win there. I know there's no win requirement for bowl eligibility this year, but we'll see how that thing unfolds. But at 4-6 and 3-3, I mean, you would think in an ordinary season, there's no way they're getting a bowl game. They're not even eligible. But this year is weird. Maybe they get one of those lower bowl games that maybe go to Shreveport or something like that. It's one of those lower games, but it's weird. I was hoping they can get this fifth win of the season this week. I know Charlotte had not played since October 31st, so there was a chance to go play a team that hadn't played in a while and get that fifth win. But obviously, Charlotte had other plans. COVID hit them again, so could they play? Probably so. Do they want to? Probably not. So if I was Charlotte either, I wouldn't want to play after being off for a month and a half. But we'll see if Todd Stewart can find a game. If they play another game, if they just finish 4-6 or what. But basketball is here now, but football we'll have to wait on and see what happens.
All right, Noah, your thoughts on the WKU cancellation? Will they make a bowl game 4-6? You think they'll find another opponent? What do you think?
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, the only opponent I think that they would be able to schedule or that seems feasible would be Rice, because Rice was really late to starting this year with all their cancellations. So they're probably still looking to play a couple more games. Everybody else in CUSA, they've either already played or is also struggling with COVID issues. So I think if they'll get anybody on the schedule, it'll be Rice. I don't know, maybe you can strike up a deal with an FCS team. I really doubt it unless, if they want money, you probably can't make that happen. Maybe, I guess, Eastern Kentucky would be interesting. I know that they just recently finished the regular season if you want to revive the rivalry, but I highly doubt that would happen. But, yeah, I think it looks like the season, unfortunately, not so unfortunately at the same time, is going to be over. So, yeah, Rice Owls, Eastern Kentucky Colonels are bust, if you ask me.
Rice and Eastern Kentucky is your only options. There's a lot better options out there.
I mean, Clemson's been wanting to play for a really long time, too, and just in general, after FSU canceled on them. So why not,
Yeah. All right. Look, you went from one extreme to the other. You go Eastern Kentucky Rice, and then you go Clemson. It's yeah. I mean, look, they got endless possibilities. It doesn't have to be in conference. They could, schedule a Sun Belt team. They could schedule an SCS team if they want an easy dub. Or they can go Power 5. If that's a possibility. The possibilities are endless. They got time to do it. Casey, what say you on the matter? What do you think about all this?
So let me just begin by saying, I really can't blame Charlotte for canceling that game. A 9:30 a.m. start time on a Tuesday is really not an ideal time for any athlete to begin play. That's usually something, that where you get, athletes' bodies involved and weird kind of injuries from guys waking up early and not being used to playing at that time. So I can't say I blame them at all, especially with the rise in COVID cases and everything. I think Charlotte made the right choice. Unfortunate for WKU, of course, who, a fifth win could really help out in this circumstance with the bowl. But even without the fifth win, I think this is a bowl team. I think with so many teams being on and off all season without, knowing who they're going to play or with the lack of games. I mean, 10 games is a lot this year. You got to think a lot of teams in FBS haven't played 10 games. So just the fact that WKU was able to play 10 games, I think says a lot, especially with a BYU team, a Marshall team, and a Liberty team on that schedule. Those are three quality, very good opponents right there. So I think that says a lot about their schedule, and I think that's more than enough to get them in a small bowl. So I really think one of these first bowls, early bowls coming up, WKU is written all over that. So I think there's no need to worry about postseason play or anything like that. I don't think there's really a need to find another opponent. Like I said, 10 games is a pretty solid schedule. So I think at this point, you just prepare your guys for next season. You prepare your guys for possibly a bowl game and kind of just get the mindset turned around after what was a down year. A 9-win team last season coming in with a lot of expectations. I think maybe a problem with this year's team was there was too much on the upperclassmen. I think what Tyson Helton needs to do going forward is kind of groom some of these underclassmen and get some younger guys ready for the future. I think there was a lot of pressure on those 25 seniors this year. So I think going forward, they kind of just need to focus on the future, not really worry about picking up another game, and kind of hoping just for the best with this postseason situation. Because I firmly believe if this team gets a shot at a bowl game, they'll give it all they got, and I think they'll win a bowl game. So I think they deserve one. Will they get one? I don't know, but it's hard to say, a 10-win team with three quality opponents like that in the Conference USA, there's not many other teams that can say that. So I think they're definitely deserving of a bowl.
All right, good take. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you really necessarily have to have it. It's just, if worlds collide and you can schedule one, great. The thing, you bring up a good point about the bowl games. Options are going to be limited because bowl games are being canceled. I think 8 have been canceled so far. That includes the Bahamas Bowl, which has a direct tie to Conference USA. Now, got to think about that. Are these bowl games? I know they have direct ties to conferences. I think obviously it's 2020. You're probably going to have a little bit of wiggle room. Maybe a Conference USA team play in a bowl game that's got some affiliation with, Power 5 schools. I don't know. It could be a lot of mismatching going on with bowl matchups and things like that. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. 2020 is just a weird year, man. I mean, Western Kentucky got 10 games in. So kudos to them for doing it. And they almost got a full 11-game regular season in. So 4-6, we'll wait and see what happens with the bowl games. Like you said, you don't really have to have a winning record. So that's always that'll be intriguing to kind of watch to see if any 0-10 teams get in the bowl games. That would be fun.
Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl, here we come.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let's see. Frisco Bowl. No, that's still available. Okay. That's on the cancellation list. All right. So anyway, we're going to make this, we're going to kind of just turn away from that, and, we'll see what happens going forward, whether they schedule another game or they're going to wait and see if they get in a bowl game. So we're going to make this, like we said at the top, we're going to make it a little bit more basketball-centric show because, Western Kentucky went to the Crossover Classic, and, they made quite an impression on a lot of people, especially Charles Bassey, and just the way this team played too. I mean, obviously went 2-1, got to the championship game, played number 15 West Virginia really good. Had a let's see, what was their lead? Had a 10-point lead with 10-point lead with 15:40 remaining in the second half. Things kind of tailed off offensively. After that, kind of lost a little bit of rhythm, but overall, 2-1. You beat Northern Iowa. That Northern Iowa game was really good. That was like an 8. I saw somebody on Twitter say it reminded you of an 8-9 matchup in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. I agree with that. Very, very entertaining game. Of course, Northern Iowa, they hit 23s. I think that might have tied a school record for them. They had two players. Record. Yeah, they had 2 players with 28 points each. So, I mean, they were just lighting up the nets, and Western Kentucky still pulled it out. And then, they beat Memphis too, so that's a really good win. And then, played West Virginia really well and had a chance to win. So 2-1, obviously Charles Bassey, the talk of the tournament, I think. Tavion Hollingsworth too, had a great tournament. Carson Williams showed up. Your boy, Casey, your boy Davion McKnight showed
Yes,
up
sir.
game against Northern Iowa. It's quite a debut for the freshman out of Collins, your old stomping ground. So I'll start with Noah, since you're Mr. Basketball guy or whatever. What were your impressions, like positives, negatives, for Western Kentucky coming out of the Crossover Classic, being 2-1, kind of making that impression on a national stage? All those games were on ESPN too, so that was big too.
Yeah, a lot of positives. I would say if Western had won on Friday, they would have the best resume out of anybody in college basketball to this point. They still have one of the best because Northern Iowa is a team that can go and win their conference. Memphis struggled throughout the week. That's another really good team that can go and win their conference. And then West Virginia is arguably the second best team in the Big 12, only behind Baylor, who can win a power conference. So those are three really good basketball teams they played. Pros-wise, in terms of on the floor, Charles looked great. First game kind of sloppy. He was settling for some perimeter jumpers. I think he's trying to impress scouts. But what you saw in the second and third games is that when he put himself on the block and then rotated over defensively and started blocking shots and running the floor, that's what scouts really want to see instead of you shooting perimeter jumpers. So really good to see him back. Tavion was, hitting ridiculous runners and everything else that he does. Luke Frampton is the sniper as sold, as advertised. Against Memphis, I think he was 1 for 6 or 0 for 6. So outside of that, he had a pretty good week. Carson Williams was the engine behind it all. There's so many stretches and runs that were ignited by offensive rebounds and diving on loose balls and just, bodying up with guys on the block. So those are all really good things. Negatives, but a positive at the same time. Rick Stansbury probably coached some of his best basketball for about 110 minutes until the final 10-minute stretch whenever he left in 5 guys who couldn't create on their own. That's why the 10-point lead disappeared in the second half of that West Virginia game. You can't, in my opinion, have Charles, Tavion, and Josh off the floor all at the same time and only having Asawe, Williams, believe Rawls was in there, McKnight, and I forgot who the other 5 was, but it was guys that couldn't create their own, shots on their own. So, other than that, that small coaching mistake cost them big time, and then they got to stop playing 2-3. As you talk about, Northern Iowa hit 23s, and there were times they'd still get caught leaving gaps open in the 2-3. So get out of the 2-3, which we'll talk about it when we get to Louisville. That might be feasible against Louisville, but you got to scrap the zone, Rick, please. It's not worked once in the past 3 to 4 years. It's not worked one time.
Yeah, you speak of, 3-pointers and how many Northern Iowa hit to hit 20, but you had Memphis, Landers Nolia, he hit 6 threes in that game. He had 25 points. So, he really poured it in for Memphis in that game. You mentioned Charles Bassey as well. The kind of selling for perimeter shots in Northern Iowa, maybe trying to flash a little bit skills for the scouts. But, in that second game against Memphis, so he had 14 rebounds and 7 blocks. So that goes to show you where his bread and butter is. It's cool you can hit a 3 every once in a while, but, hey, man, just hang out in the post, okay? You'll do good things down there.
Run the floor.
Right, exactly. He can run he can run like a deer, just stay in the post, do your thing. Tyler, we'll go to you. Positives and negatives for Western Kentucky basketball to start the season.
I think the biggest thing is depth. I know we knew coming in they'd be a really good team. Maybe go 8, 9 deep, maybe even 10. We saw firsthand that starting 5 is so good. Kenny Cooper, Tavion Hollingsworth. You look at Josh Anderson, Carson Williams, Charles Bassey. Those 5 right there are a great starting 5 and practically one of the best in the country to me. I know there's so much experience there, so much depth. Charles looks like a phenomenal player. He's back from injury, playing better than he was before he even got hurt. Kenny Cooper is a guy who hadn't played in a full year. He's ready to go. He's a great point guard, good ball facilitator, doing great things. And then look at the bench in that first game. And like you said, Davion McKnight from Collins High School in Louisville comes off there, does great things. Got a lot of love from Dan Dockich and the ESPN crew on that broadcast. And also on top of that, you look at the JUCO transfer, Kevin Osaway did a great job there. And also Luke Frampton. It's a sharp shooter. It seems like when he's shooting the ball, it's always going in. So there's 8 players there really, really good that can play a lot of minutes. Obviously number 9's Isaiah Cozart, a couple other guys in the mix too, but those 8 are the primary players right now. And each of them are their abilities to do things is pretty incredible. I think the biggest thing from that tournament is we saw what they can do. Beat Memphis, you beat Northern Iowa, you battled West Virginia. just the negative thing to me is those cold spells. We saw it a lot last year and this year as well. Tavion hurts his thumb, goes out for a certain amount of time. Charles is in foul trouble, and obviously you're up 10 with 10 minutes to go, and then obviously you're down 11. So you go from up 10 to down 11, courtesy of a 26-7 run, and just things are not good there. You go on a cold spell, you can't hit any shots, you get down double digits, and then things aren't good. But I think if they fix things like that, obviously you can't control foul trouble and injuries, but those cold spells just kind of keep the offense flowing in a consistent rhythm. And then the bench too. I know the bench was great game 1, solid game 2, but game 3 there was no bench really. Frampton had, I think, maybe 10 or 12. He's still solid, but McKnight got cold. I know you can't score 20 points every single game. I mean, obviously you're a freshman, but just more bench consistency. But other than that, the depth's great. The team's really good, and I think it'll be a fun year overall. And of course, there was 3 tough games to open the season with.
All right, Casey, flip it to you. What are your thoughts on the Crossover Classic and WKU's performance there?
So first, I just want to say, Noah and Tyler, great job outlining everything. I pretty much touched on everything I'm going to say here, but I'll just reiterate a little bit. Some stats I kind of just wanted to point out. First of all, this team shot 75% plus every game from the free throw line, which is something you really want to see early in the season. If you can establish that early on and become an elite free throw shooting team, then that's really dangerous in March. When it gets real chippy, when it gets real aggressive in the tournament, if we make it that far this year, that's going to come in real clutch. So I'd love to see those high percentage free throws from this team. Everybody looks like they can shoot the ball pretty well from the free throw line. Less than 10 turnovers in 2 out of 3 games, which is good. Relatively clean basketball being played from the Hilltoppers, good chemistry being shown, moving the ball around a lot without a bunch of errant passes. I love to see that throughout the 3 games. And then out-rebounded opponents 2 out of 3 games. We can continue to do that. That's going to easily, put us in the win column most days. Like Noah and Tyler were saying, Charles Bassey, he's looking like he's an elite big man in college basketball this year. If he can keep that up and, average 10 rebounds a game, he's got lottery pick written all over him, whether he can shoot the 3 or not. So I'm not really worried about his perimeter shooting or anything like that. As long as he can continue to get those rebounds and stay down low, that's what we're going to be looking for from him. And then like Tyler touched on a bunch, this team has depth, 8 deep. 8 is not even the word to describe it. They could even be 10 deep if they get those other 2 guys going a little bit more. But the 2 that I really noticed in the first 3 games were Luke Franson and Davion McKnight, like y'all were touching on. Those 2 provided quality minutes, at least 15 minutes a game in all 3 of those games. Provided a great array of assists, rebounds, and points. Frampton needs to get his shot a little bit more consistent. And like you said, McKnight can clean up his offensive game a little bit more. But overall, they were good facilitators, moving the ball around a lot, showing up on defense, not just offense. So I like to see that this team is definitely 8 deep so far, and they can provide some depth on both sides of the ball when they need it. Just a couple negatives here, and it's kind of nitpicky. More efficient on the 3-pointers. They came out shooting really cold in that first game. You're going to shoot with a Northern Iowa team who likes to throw up threes like that. Can't blame them for that. But I would like to see him clean that up a little bit. I believe this team didn't shoot over 38% in any of the 3 games from 3, which isn't terrible, but they were throwing up a lot. I think they shot 20-plus threes in 2 out of those 3 games. So I would like to clean that up a little bit more, maybe shoot a little less threes going forward early on in the game, maybe increase as you get more hot. And then other than that, just one more nitpicky thing, maybe just a little bit more out of Kenny Cooper. He had a great game against Memphis, filled the stat sheet. But in those other 2 games, I felt like he could have been a little bit better at facilitating and doing his job, passing the ball around a little bit more. And that's only because his expectations were so high coming into this season. I think Kenny Cooper did a fantastic job in his first 3 games, comparatively speaking, since he hasn't played in the season. But I think he can be a lot better as the season goes on, as just a distributor and whatnot, and on the defense a little bit more. So those are just a few nitpicky negatives right there. But overall, a great opening weekend for the Hilltoppers. I don't think any Hilltopper basketball fan could ask for too much more than what we saw. So it was great.
Yeah, I think you bring up good points, especially about Western being aggressive, and especially in those first 2 games, and then shooting over 70% for the free throw line. If you're aggressive, you're going to the basket, you're getting fouls, you're going to the line, you're hitting 70% of them or more, you're doing pretty good there. And you mentioned Bassey shooting threes. I think the only person that's more worried about him hitting threes is he's probably the guy that's most worried about him hitting threes. I mean, look, worry about that when you get to the NBA, man. If you're wide open, one. But otherwise, just don't worry about it. Just play your game. Play your game. So Western's 2-1. Obviously, great showing at the Crossover Classic. Wins over Northern Iowa. Win over Memphis. You play West Virginia really close. You could have beat them, So now they move on to the Louisville bubble. Tyler will be up there at the Louisville bubble. Obviously, this isn't a tournament. It's more just like, hey, we're playing 3 games guaranteed. So obviously, they're going to play Louisville on Tuesday night at 5 p.m. That's going to be on the ACC network. So they got a big in-state matchup with Louisville on Tuesday, and they'll finish things up with Prairie View A&M on December 3rd, and Arkansas Little Rock, or just Little Rock on December 5th.
Official.
Tyler, I'll start with you since you're going to be up there. What do you kind of expect from this Western Kentucky team, and how you think they'll perform up there in the Louisville bubble?
Yeah, like I said, 3 more interesting games. Prairie View saw, Little Rock saw. Obviously, we know who Louisville is, and bubble play continues. They hit the road to South Dakota, fly from there, go straight to Louisville. So they have been Bowling Green in a few days now, going on over a week. Louisville's first up. This is a team that's off to 3-0 start. They beat Evansville, Seton Hall, and Prairie View all in their little Wade Houston tip-off classic there. Carlick Jones, 17 points a game. Jalen Withers, 13 points a game. Samuel Wilson, 11.5. And, of course, David Johnson from Trinity High School up in Louisville was right at 11 points a game. So 4 players are in double figures for them. I know they have some injuries, too, with I think Malik Williams is still out with a foot injury. So this is a really good Louisville Cardinals team. They can score a lot of points. They're averaging, I think, almost 79 points a game, only allowing almost 60. So this is a team balanced on both sides of the ball. It'll be a tough matchup for Western. I'm not sure how they'll match up with them 1 through 5, but obviously Charles and Williamson will be a good battle down there. Obviously Jones on Hollingsworth, Kenny Cooper right there in that mix. So it should be a good test for Western. After West Virginia, it's another Power 5 school to play and see where each stand. But I think this is a winnable game for Western. I really do. I think they'll match up well with them. If they can score points and play good defensively, it should be a battle. I can see this being down to the wire, maybe a last possession ball game, but this will be a fun game to watch. And then after that, you get a day off Wednesday, come back on Thursday, Prairie View. It's the team led by Jeremiah Gambrell. Me and Noah had that beforehand today. This is a guy who played at Western just limited minutes, last year. I think his highest scoring game at Western was probably 12, 14 points in a game at MTSU I was at last year. But he's averaging 12 points a game. There's another guy averaging, I think, 12 right there with him. Went 19-13 last year, 14-4 in their SWAT conference. So it's another interesting team. They're 1-2 right now. Beat Evansville, who's not very good. It's like beating a very bad team right now because they're still rebuilding. But lost to Little Rock and Louisville. So 2 teams Western will play along with Prairie View. They both lost to. So it's an interesting matchup too. It's a team where they're experimenting with new guys. Obviously brought Gambrell in the mix. He's obviously their leading scorer just 2 games into the season. So that's pretty cool to see. And of course, Little Rock's is a Fun Belt team. Western played them a long time ago. Played them every single year. They've been a solid team for a long time. Won 21 games last year. They probably would have won the Sun Belt Conference if it wasn't canceled due to COVID. Off to a 1-1 start, and they had 4 players also in double figures. So this is not 3 easy games by any means. It'll be tough for Western. But, hey, there'll be 6 in a row to open a season with. You're getting tested to see where you are. So I think it'll be a cool little tip-off tournament to go to and see how tops look.
Tyler, I'll just go ahead and hit you with it. What do you think the record's going to be for Western coming out of this bubble? You think they'll win all 3? How do you think it'll go?
That's a good question. I say 2-1. I'll go 2-1 off this. I think they'll beat Little Rock and Prairie View. I'm not sold on Louisville yet. I think Louisville can get them in that first game. I think it'll be close by all means, but I think they'll beat Little Rock, Prairie View without any hassle. But we'll see how that Louisville game goes opening night tomorrow.
All right, I will flip it over to Casey now, and we'll end with Noah. Casey, what are your thoughts on obviously Tyler? We'll just end there. I mean, Tyler did a great recap there of who the key players are and everything. But no, Casey, just give us your thoughts on Western Kentucky. How you kind of see this kind of playing out up there at the Louisville bubble this week?
Yeah, so first of all, I just see an amazing opportunity to establish yourself as potentially a top 25 team after these 3 games. These 3 teams, Louisville, Prairie View, and Little Rock, are all regular season champions last season in their respective conferences. So that's a great resume building stretch we got coming up here. Like Tyler was talking about, Louisville, a pretty raw team overall so far. They're 3-0. They're missing Malik Williams, but a solid win yesterday over Prairie View, 86-64. So that's a good 22-point win for them, a good confidence booster. So I fully expect Louisville to come into this game tomorrow very confident, expecting to win this game. And I actually think that benefits Western. I think Western can come in, and if they're shooting well, they can really knock them off and kind of take them off guard. So I think it's all about efficiency at this point. You know, can Davion McKnight put up 20 points off the bench again like he did in that first game? If he does that, I think it's a very close, winnable game against Louisville. It all just depends on the contributions off the bench and if we can go 8 deep or even 10 deep like I was talking about a minute ago. So those bench players really got to show up. Louisville has shown they've got 3 pretty good scorers so far this year. He mentioned Withers and Johnson and Carleek Jones. Jones is averaging, 7 rebounds a game as a guard. So he's been a pretty physical guard so far that we're going to have to match up with. He's going to be very tough. So I really expect this Louisville game to be a March-esque game, a very tournament feel to it. And I think these two teams will come out very, shaky and nervous to start the game, seeing as they're in-state rivals and whatnot. So that's going to be a really good game. I can't wait to watch tomorrow. Then as far as Prairie View and Little Rock, these two teams are both 1-1 on the season. Kind of like WKU, they've shown some really big positives, but also they can be beaten. So both of these teams, I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing what kind of game it is. I ultimately think WKU should be the favorite against both of these teams, but of course they have some talent too. Little Rock, they got the Marich and Lukic combo going on there. They got Nikola Marich and then Marco Lukic, each putting up 15-plus points a game. So they're going to be tough to defend. Marich is a forward. He averages 6 rebounds a game, 19 points. So he's going to be their go-to guy. Bassie's definitely going to have to body him up, show him who's boss a little bit. So I can't wait for that matchup. And then Prairie View, of course, you all talk about Gambrell. He's been effective for them so far. And they also got a couple guys in Jawan Daniels and Fate Williams who have put up 10 points a game respectively and also 5-plus rebounds. So 2 big guys there for Prairie View as well. Can't wait to see these matchups. And ultimately, I want to see Charles Bassie continue his presence that he's been so far down low, running the court, blocking shots, doing what he's doing. Like Sean was touching on a little bit, I think he's the only one that's really concerned if he's shooting good. So I don't want to look for that too much, but I want to look for, the starting 5 to continue that chemistry they developed in the first 3 games. Ultimately, reduce the turnovers and just keep doing what they've been doing. Maybe shoot a little bit better, get that chemistry going on the shooting game, shoot less threes, So other than that, I think it's going to be 3 solid games, more measuring stick games to see where WKU is. And ultimately, I think after these 3 games, we could be talking about the Hilltoppers being ranked. So that's what I'm really hoping for.
You mentioned those Little Rock guys. I don't know anything about them. Are they the European connection?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you think Western's going 3-0 in this bubble this week?
I'm going to go 2-1. I think they will lose to Louisville, but I think it'll be very close. I think it comes down to overtime or maybe a last possession. So I'm going to go 2-1.
Okay. All right. 6 minutes left. Noah, plenty of time to get your kicks in. Go ahead. What do you think about the Louisville bubble? How you see it going down?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Prairie View and Little Rock because they're already 2-0. It's just about tomorrow night. Can you get it done tomorrow night? What a huge win that would be. Here would be my motivation for them this week. I believe the USA Today poll came out today. Not one vote. They didn't get one vote for the top 25 today. And after this week, if you don't see that as disrespect, I don't know how you don't. I'm just looking at Louisville's roster, and for the first time in a while against a power conference team, Western has a size advantage. Louisville plays Samuel Williamson and Dre Davis as their bigs. Dre Davis is 6'5". This will be the first center that Carson Williams can match up with and be taller than. And he already abuses guys who are bigger than him. So same with Samuel Williamson. He's 6'7", and he's only a sophomore, 210, not a very big guy. Charles is bigger, stockier. So 3 out, 2 in, stick those 2 on the blocks, and abuse them all night long in the paint. And then on the other end, you can play 2-3, as I was going to get to earlier. I believe Louisville's shooting 29% from 3. I would say beware Quinn Slazinski for Louisville coming off the bench. I believe he's working his way back into the rotation. And he's only shooting 18% from 3. I believe he shot 40-something% last year. So I feel like this would be the type of game for a guy for Louisville to contribute off the bench big time. One of those guys could be one I know me and Tyler, I know Casey was there last year at the West Trader Schoolboy Classic, is J.J. Traynor. I really like watching J.J. Traynor a lot. He's got a really good face-up game out of, at the mid-post. So I think he'll be an interesting matchup for whoever's at the 3 spot, and he'll play a little bit of the 4 too. So I really don't see, honestly, how Western shouldn't be favored to win this game. I think outside of Carly Jones and Johnson, I think Western is matches up much better with Louisville than Louisville matches up with Western. Size and experience and physicality, I think all edges go to Western. Even pushing the tempo, I would say Western is better. Louisville does like at least when I watch them play Evansville, so they're going to slow the game down and they're going to play physical in your shorts defense like Memphis and West Virginia did. So another key, it's going to be really important, is when McKnight does get minutes. West Virginia and Memphis did kind of harass him full court, so you better expect the same thing from Carly Jones and David Johnson whenever they tip off tomorrow night.
All right. Sounds good. So they're going 3-0, 2-1 in this bubble. What do you think?
I think 3-0. I mean, I really think so. As long as they can keep Louisville from hitting perimeter shots and then cash in on opportunities when they get mismatches down low, I think that this is a no-brainer, especially after last season when they embarrassed them in Nashville. I mean, I think their last season's game should have been much closer just because of the talent on both sides, but that was an embarrassing loss. And so I don't see how you take that, not getting any votes in the top 25, and still probably going into tomorrow night not being favored. You know, how you don't use those three things as motivation, especially for the seniors. I know Tavion Hollingsworth, he's played his heart out these last weeks, so I expect nothing less this week. So I feel like that he's going to be the guy and always will be the X factor in terms of, you know, are they going to get going offensively or not? And I think Kenny Cooper is going to have a really interesting matchup with Carly Jones, as Casey was talking about, is a big physical guard, only at 6'1". But Kenny Cooper's a physical guy too. And so if he wants to step up defensively, tomorrow night would be a great time to do so.
All right, good stuff. And after this Louisville bubble, you have three non-conference home games for Western Kentucky. So they have another chance against a pretty good team. December 13th, Rhode Island comes to town. December 22nd, Tennessee Tech. And then December 28th, Mississippi Valley State. Then after that, it is Conference USA time. You know, a lot of those games, pretty much all of them except the Marshall games, are going to be back-to-back, whether that's on the road or at home. So be interesting COVID schedule for conference games. But, hey, basketball's here. And I think I saw a tweet where Conference USA was the only conference to get all their basketball teams games in this past opening weekend or whatever. So good for them.
Doing big things.
Yeah, there you go. So with that, we got less than a minute left, so we'll wrap it up here. Once again, Casey Warner, Noah McGhee, Tyler Mansfield, appreciate all you guys do. If you guys got anything to plug, just do it real quick if you want to, Tyler.
Hey, y'all, just follow this week. We'll be in Louisville Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Plenty of coverage coming your way, game stories, coverage. If I do some video action stuff, so just be tuned in to InsideHilltoppersports.com. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, you better be doing some video action up there in the bubble and give us some behind-the-scenes looks and everything. Casey, you got anything real quick?
Just follow us all on Twitter. You know, we always got the good content coming out at VKC Warner, and, you know, those two can share theirs as well.
All right, Noah, you're up. What's your Twitter handle?
Yeah, Campbellsville has bulletin board material because Sean grazed over them in terms of Western playing them after this bubble. So bulletin board material for the Campbellsville Tigers. And I don't know, we might see if we can do film breakdown for Louisville tonight basketball-wise. See if we can get that in. So
I will have a preview story out later this afternoon after we talk to Stansbury. So that's coming too.
There you go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to – I was going to suggest, Noah, you should do some post-game or pre-game videos, you know, because since you're a broadcasting major and everything, and that's kind of one of the reasons I brought you on the site.
Hey, we're almost out of time. I just want to let you know that right now.
That's all right.
Follow us at WKU_Rivals. That's where all our content will be tweeted out. Tyler will be at the bubble this week. We appreciate you tuning in. And